I believe they're purposely exploiting multiple groups they believe would be desperate enough to work under these conditions.
And these are just all people that are coming in, sleeping on these communal beds, leaving. The sheets aren't getting washed. Nothing's happening. It's just people that they're flying in and out and not paying, just some of the times giving them stipends to barely survive while they're there.
Yep.
Wow. Well, what started off as making fun of a cringe LinkedIn bro has turned into something a lot more deep and, quite frankly, disgusting. Last week, I made a video about an AI insurance company called Corgi, and it was supposed to be a bit of a humorous video because apparently every employee of theirs gets a full-size mattress for the office, and a lot of the times they end up sleeping on that mattress. And while I thought it was satire at first, I realized this guy wasn't joking. And to make things crazier, after I posted the video, a couple of people that claim to have done a work trial at the company reached out to me to tell me about what the working conditions, or should I say living conditions, really was like at this company. Now, it's at this point of the video that my ChatGPT lawyer has instructed me that I should say everything you see in this video is just based off of the conversation I had with the alleged work trial employee. I did my best to verify they actually worked there. They sent me a bunch of images of the office, things that I'm not going to share, but were enough for me to reasonably believe that they actually did work there. But at the end of the day, I'm just sharing my opinion on the story that was told to me, and you guys should draw your own conclusions on whether or not you believe that this is what's actually going on at Corgi or not. I just wanted to make funny videos about LinkedIn cringe, but turns out this video is going to be more like a Techzilla type of video. And I'm also including the full interview I did with the person I talked to at the end of this video. In order to keep his identity hidden, I added a voice filter and muted out some small parts of the interview. But yeah, the whole ideology behind this AI insurance company seems to be the idea that they are a hustle culture. They pride themselves on working 7 days a week. And they also talk about they have a bunch of mattresses scattered around the office. So if you don't want to walk or bus back home at 4 a.m., you have a nice place to stay. And they actually take a lot of pride in their 6 to 7 day work week, and that they're doing it because they believe in pushing boundaries and getting things done. Now, one thing I want to point out here is the definition of we that's used in a lot of his posts. Apparently, they end up doing a lot of what's called work trials. Now, from my understanding, a work trial is where they fly somebody out to their office, have them work there for around a week's time, and if they are a good fit, they might extend an offer. If not, they send them home. And while I don't think a work trial in itself is necessarily bad, in fact, I think it might be a great way to figure out whether or not somebody is a fit, there are a couple of expectations that you probably want to maintain. Like, for example, you probably want the person that is not even working for you legally not to do anything crazy like work overtime. Secondly, you probably want that person to be paid. And third of all, you probably want to cover their expenses, especially if you're flying them out from somewhere else to come work at your company. However, according to the person I interviewed, not only do some of these work trial interns not get paid at all for their time, but some of them only have things like their plane ticket stipend, and in terms of things like food, they are on their own.
Because they bought him a plane ticket instead of letting him buy his own, which is what the rest of us did, like, I believe he just bought his own food, yeah.
Wow. Wow. And this is on top of not getting any for work trial, no like money specifically for your time. It's just like,
no, it's only the stipend. You don't get to keep any of the money if you don't spend it.
Now, this is just the first of the really disturbing claims that was made against this company. And I actually did reach out to one of the founders, Emily, on LinkedIn for comment, and I have yet to get a response. And I also messaged Josh, who actually did respond. And while his response was that he wasn't really interested in talking at the moment, he did actually shed a bit of light on the situation. And when I say shed a bit of light, I mean sort of confirm my suspicion that things are definitely not the best there. Now, it's worth noting that allegedly there are two places where these work mattresses live. They have the office, which has a couple mattresses in them, and that's pretty much where everyone works on a daily basis. And then they apparently also have a townhome. And a townhome is where all these work trial people will stay. And according to the person I talked to, it did not have Wi-Fi, and they just had a couple of mattresses in every room, and they just had a couple of mattresses spread across the rooms. And not only did these mattresses apparently not have any bed sheets, but they also had stains that didn't look like they had been cleaned. And because they were cycling around 3 to 4 people per week for these work trials, the beds in both the workplace and the office were apparently communal, which means anyone can sleep on any bed, and you're just sleeping on a bed that somebody different might have slept on for the last week and the week before that and the week before that.
So we can, like, the mattresses are kind of like communal, I guess. but it
Oh,
has no
wow.
sheets or anything. And in the townhouse, there's like just very bare rooms with mattresses on the ground. And there's no
What?
Wi-Fi, no mattresses, or no sheets.
And it still fucking kills me that they post this stuff on LinkedIn like it's a badge of honor. And you can see at the end of almost all their LinkedIn posts, they have like a call to action for anyone that wants to come work at the company. And in my last video, I poked fun, like I can't believe people are actually sending their email in here. It turns out this is how they are sourcing all the people for their work trials. Apparently the interview process is like sending in a 1-minute video of yourself, then getting on maybe 1 to 2 Zoom calls without any real technical screaming, and then they will fly you out. And they are apparently doing some crazy volume, like 3 to 4 work trials every single week. And while getting one of these work trials is apparently easy, the actual selection process they use to filter out who they want to do a work trial is extremely predatory. Like apparently they have high school students that come in and do this. And from what I understand, the work trial was over spring break or another week-long break that a high school student might get. But they offered either a summer internship position or a full-time job after they graduate. It's apparently $40,000 and $20,000 of that is for a living stipend.
One of the high school students I know who actually did get a return offer, the compensation was apparently like $20K in cash and $20K in like housing and food credit.
For
Like
Or a
the
whole
summer
full
or
year.
something?
Or a
A
full
whole
year.
year.
Yeah, that's what they were offering the high school students.
And keep in mind, what I heard is when you first start, you get a little red booklet that talks about how they work harder than everyone else, and you are expected to work extremely hard if you're going to work at this company.
When you first enter the office, they give you a red book, and inside the red book is like a philosophy, right? It's like a manual to their philosophy, and it's like, oh, we work hard, everyone else doesn't work hard. And it's like, they believe they're the hardest working. They believe like amount of hours in the office equates to amount of output without any fall off or anything. Like they just give you a book and you sit. It's like a
Sounds
it's
like a
kind of like a
cult.
children's book, and you just have to agree to it. Yeah, the least amount of hours I worked in a day was maybe 12 on my first day. Generally, I think most people in the office worked anywhere between 10 and 15 hours a day.
Now, I sort of felt like some of these things were a bit hard to believe, so I decided to ask Josh. And even though he declined wanting to talk to me, he actually did send a couple of messages. We work harder than other companies because we believe in what we're building and we're all friends over here. But we also make sure people take care of health. We actually provide housing for our employees, so your last video is a bit misleading. So again, apparently the housing they provide is just a townhome that's a 20-minute walk away with just some mattresses scattered around and not even anything like Wi-Fi. And not to mention their office is in San Francisco, and if their employees are working all kinds of hours in the night, walking 20 minutes away to that townhome is probably not the safest thing in the world. He also mentioned that they take care of their employees' health, but I'll let you see this clip for yourself.
I got sick on the first day.
You got sick on the first day.
I got off my flight, went to the office. I worked like 14 hours a day. I went back. The second day I woke up. Yeah, it was not good.
Like, and for example, if somebody is sick, are they still expected to come in to the
The office, even if it's
contagious?
You're showing up.
So yeah, mentioning that you hit the gym and basketball courts every day doesn't seem like the most convincing thing to me. And this is the part that really irks me. When he talked about the mattresses, he said, the mattresses are really there for us to use whenever we want, like nap pods at Google. We have paid housing, so we go back home for the most part. I'm like, are you saying the beds are for napping and used only for such, or that it's for napping, but people happen to also use them to sleep overnight? And he's like, oh, they're both for napping and staying over if we find ourselves still at the office at a late time. Sometimes I can't be bothered to bus back home after a late night session. And I sort of touched on this in the last video, but it feels like their entire vibe of how they operate is that they heavily imply really unrealistic, unhealthy standards for their employees without making it technically mandatory. It's like he said in our LinkedIn message, oh, you know, the beds are for napping like Google. Yeah, it's sort of implied that they're there for you to sleep overnight. Oh, you know, it's not mandatory that you work 10 hours a day, but we talk about it on LinkedIn all the time. Everyone does it. And if you don't, we're probably not going to hire you ever again. And it feels like just some primitive, like preschooler logic. Like, oh, you know, we just put a mattress there. We never forced them to sleep at night here. Oh, you know, I just gave him the gun and told him that maybe he should rob the bank. And if he doesn't, I was going to hurt him. You know, I wasn't the one that actually made him rob the bank. I didn't rob the bank. It's just some disgusting school level cop out shit. And then when I asked about the whole bedsheet thing, this is what he said. Paid housing is simply paid housing. We get housing stipends so that we don't have to pay a ton of rent in SF. Everything outside of that, we would get on our own. I haven't heard of any company companies that pays for bed sheets. Like, according to my understanding, you guys are flying people in to have them work for you for pretty much free for an entire week. You're putting them up in these townhomes with mattresses on the ground and apparently giving them a set amount of money, so they have to choose between whether or not they even want to Uber home at night or spend that money on meals. And you're telling me that it's an unreasonable thing to expect that the company would pay for something like bed sheets?
They're completely fine if you're like walking by yourself home from the office to the housing at like 12 a.m. in San Francisco. Like they're completely fine with that. Even with the high school interns, I think they're letting do that.
And they wouldn't like cover, for example, an Uber home at that time of night or any other alternate
Well,
you
form of
could,
like,
you could use your RAM card on it, but from what I've experienced, like most of us, like I took an Uber to the office and I literally couldn't afford an Uber back, so I took the metro. But I now spending maybe $15 on meals, and I was having 2 meals a day.
Wow. And that's because they only give you a certain amount of money that you
Yeah.
spend during the work trial and you had to ration it.
Yeah, and I imagine for the guy that didn't even get a RAM card, like I imagine he was struggling.
I think at this point, when I asked my next question, Josh sort of realized that I knew a bit more than he thought I did. I'm not just making another funny video about his cringe bait LinkedIn posts. Because I asked if the beds were cleaned in some way regularly, if they don't have sheets, and if the beds were actually communal and anyone could use them. I also asked about him offering high school students $40,000 in total comp for the 10 plus hours a day that they work, and got no response. Oh, update. It looks like while I was editing this video, Josh responded again. I'm not sure what you don't understand about paid housing. It's simple. Your housing is paid for. Mattresses in the office and paid housing are two separate things. When you're hired, you get your own mattress, not shared. Again, no one is forced to work 10 plus hours a day. We just do. Yeah, again, just using the standard cop out, like no one's forced to do it. We just all do it. And honestly, this feels like a tip of the iceberg. There's also apparently a dog that lives in the office, and it leads to the office space being pretty unsanitary. I've seen a couple pictures that I can't share out of respect to keeping the person's identity anonymous.
The dog was apparently like really unsanitary. The dog was farting everywhere, I believe. And like, so the smell was bad.
So yeah, I have no idea how a company that's allegedly making $5 million in ARR raised a ton of money after their YC batch, are either in the process of closing another round or has already closed another round, is struggling to, number one, pay the people that are coming in to do work trials whose work is actually being pushed into production, and why they are so against just giving their employees livable conditions. Like, I don't even want to use the term hustle culture because I think this goes far beyond hustle culture. I think associating what Corgi is allegedly doing is an insult to what hustle culture traditionally even stands for. And if you watch the interview, you'll see the person mentions that he doesn't think their investors actually even know what is going on behind the scenes, which is on one hand a relief because I'd be surprised if they were okay with that. And on the other hand, I hope that they do and his story gets out to more people so that somebody there can see this and stop this shit from happening. But the fact that they are doing completely fine financially and still subject their employees to this is crazy. Like, I get you want to work hard and you want to do all this stuff, but do you really think employees that are working under these conditions are giving you the best work possible? Or maybe that's why they're apparently cycling so many free work trial people to come in, vibe code a couple of features and then leave without paying them. I just don't understand. And the fact that they even come on LinkedIn and post it like it's some badge of honor or some flex, and that they're being celebrated by the people in the comments is just disgusting. It's also worth noting for these free work trials, apparently they try to target low prestige schools, people that would have a hard time finding an opportunity in the valley, like high school students, because they'd be the only ones desperate enough to deal with these types of conditions and have a high chance of letting themselves get overworked and then accepting an offer afterwards. And it makes sense when you look at these LinkedIn posts, all the people that are posting their emails, a lot of them look like they're just unemployed and really desperate for a job, which is fucking sad. And these people seemingly built an entire funnel to take advantage of that. And again, you have Forbes writing an article about these things, and the founders even get into Forbes 30 under 30. It's just crazy to me. And we haven't even touched on some of the weirder aspects that we talked about in the full interview, like why they apparently try to hire Mormons and athletes for their sales operations and all kinds of other weird things they're apparently doing there. So I'll leave that for the post interview. But my goal with this video is to call this out so that it doesn't start some precedence that this is what you should be doing as a startup founder, or even more importantly, that these standards are okay if you are an engineer or an employee that is working at a startup. Like, this is not okay, and them trying to normalize this is fucking wild. And again, I'm just presenting what I've heard. A lot of the things I learned and saw in terms of images and private information I can't share with you, but hopefully this interview gives you a better idea of everything we talked about. Here's the interview. Yeah, I can hear you. How's it going, dude?
I am doing good. Is there any background noise you can hear? Just let me know.
No, it's pretty clear. It's pretty clear.
It sounds good.
Yeah, so thanks a lot for coming on call and stuff like that. Before we start, just to confirm, so anything you don't want to say or anything that you don't want to go on record, let me know. You're not, you know what I mean? If you're not comfortable answering any of the questions, just let me know, and I won't include it. And yeah, so are you cool with all that and the stuff we talk about here being in a video and everything?
Yeah, sounds good. You're using a voice muffler, right? Or like
Yeah.
voice changer? Okay,
Yeah,
sounds good.
I'll modify your voice and everything. So yeah.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So why don't you start from, I guess, the beginning? Like, tell me about like your experience with Corgi, how it all started, like pretty much whatever you want to start with.
So I originally found Corgi through LinkedIn. Someone in my network commented on one of their posts, and they were saying they were looking for software engineers and members to join their sales team for an internship and a work trial. And they flew you out, and the interview process looked relatively simple. So I just applied because it looks easy and it was short. And the interview process was like you sent a minute video of yourself. They would Zoom call you maybe once or twice, 30 minutes at max, and then they would basically just fly you out.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. And wow. Okay. So that and when they fly you out, it's just like you like you go out there and what do you do?
Um, so first the flying out part, there's varying experiences. For me and someone I knew, they gave us a ramp card with various amounts of money depending on where you were from. For another intern, or I guess work trial member I met, they actually had to pay out of pocket for food and expenses. The company just gave him a plane ticket straight up. So
Okay.
there's varying experiences for that. But we went to the office, or the day I got there, I went to the office and I just straight up got to work. I sat at a desk and they just gave me various tasks to do, and I just did the tasks.
Okay, and what was the culture like? What yeah, what was the culture like? What was it like working there? How were did you meet the founders? Were they the ones like that are running the show type of thing, or was it like someone further down?
Um, so the culture there, I'd say the least amount of hours I worked in a day was maybe 12 on my first day. Generally, I think most people in the office worked anywhere between 10 and 15 hours a day. And
Oh,
I believe some sleep in the office. But yeah, the work trial interns, because obviously we're trying to get a return offer, everyone's trying to make a good impression. And obviously, so everyone's trying to work as long as possible, stay in the office as long as possible. And we get like food breaks and all that, but you're expected to be in the office for most of the day, I'd say.
okay. And when you say you're expected, do they like outright say stuff like that, or is it more so like it's implied because everyone around you is doing it, and it's sort of like the culture?
Well, it's kind of both actually. But when you originally get recruited, one of their repeated missions, as you can see on their website, their job descriptions, their profile on Y Combinator, their entire culture is everyone works 7 days a week. Everyone works until like midnight or maybe even later. But when you first enter the office, and this is a repeated experience for almost everyone I've talked to, when you first enter the office, they give you a red book, and inside the red book is like a philosophy, right? It's like a manual to their philosophy, and it's like, oh, we work hard, everyone else doesn't work hard, and it's like they believe they're the hardest working. They believe like amount of hours in the office equates to amount of output without any fall off or anything. Like they just give you a book and you sit. It's like
Sounds
it's
like a
kind of like a
cult.
children's book, and you just have to agree to it. Yeah, but it's
Wow.
implied too. I may
Wow.
have pictures of the book. I could send
Okay.
them to you if I find them.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's insane. And like Like so did you get a chance to interact a lot with the actual like co-founders of the company, or was it more like, for example, like like some middle management or some in between that you're talking to the most?
So the way the office is set up, the co-founders were present in the office most of the time, I believe, but they have their own cubicles while everyone else is in a more communal space.
Okay. Okay. And
But
Are they
yes, the
also like
co-founders are
staying there?
pretty, oh,
Oh,
sorry.
sorry, go ahead.
But the co-founders are relatively present, I'd say.
okay. Even like at nights, like if people are like they're sleeping on the mattress as well, type of thing.
I do, but one of the co-founders was sleeping in the office, but I believe Emily, one of the co-founders, does not sleep in the office a lot,
Okay.
if
Okay,
at all.
And yeah, so what's like the whole deal with the mattress stuff? Like how does that work?
To me, it just feels like a really quirky and edgy way to like go along with the identity of they're like a company that works 7 days a week, that works like up to 15, maybe more hours a day. So I think it's just something that goes along with their identity. It's kind of like a marketing thing for employees, I guess, and
uh,
investors.
And did they like ask you when you first started if you wanted a mattress, or it's just like all right, here's your mattress, like enjoy type of thing?
I was a work trial, so if I get a return offer, that's what happens. But someone I know that did get a return offer, yeah, they just bought a mattress and it's just in the office. I'd say at my time, I saw about four mattresses in the office, but there were also things like pull-out couches and inside the founders' cubicles or like walk-ins, they had their own like couch setups and whatever.
Okay. Okay. So they sort of like partition the office in a sense, like to house all these like mattresses that they're buying for their employees to like actually sleep on.
Yeah, I'll send you a picture after the call, but it's something like that.
Okay. Okay. Wow. And so were you like, for example, the guy I saw on LinkedIn, it was, I believe Josh was his name, and he's the guy that's like making all these like posts about the culture and stuff like that. Is he the one that's in like, is he in charge with a lot of this stuff? Is he involved on a day to day, for example, with you guys, or did you report like to like an engineer, or like how does the structure work?
So I believe the company before they got accepted into YC, I believe it was just the two co-founders, and they had a previous team that I believe none of the previous team works here anymore.
wow.
But so after they got funding, I believe Josh was one of the first employees after the Y Combinator. But I
Okay,
reported direct because I was the engineering intern. I worked directly with the engineering team.
okay.
I didn't interact with him that much outside of maybe getting food with him. But yeah.
Okay, and so the fact that they went through YC and after, did they end up like? I'm guessing they ended up like raising enough money to, for example, be able to like pay for decent conditions for you guys to like work in and stuff like that. Is that correct?
Oh yeah. Um, I believe YC they raised a few million, and I believe they have a ARR, annual recurring revenue, of over 5 million too. That's what I've heard.
Wow.
And they also just raised 50 million, I believe.
And like an additional 15, like 1.5,
50-50.
50.
Yeah, that's what I've been told.
Wow. Okay, so that, I'm guessing that would have been like a Series A or something.
Yeah, yeah. I believe it's Series A.
Wow. Wow, that's insane. I mean, in terms of day-to-day work, so I know like you mentioned the hours were crazy and it was implied and everyone's doing these crazy hours. In terms of like the actual working conditions, like the office space, like the like sanitariness of it, like how was all that like?
Um, I wasn't in the room as, or there's like a primary room and kind of a room for the engineers. My friend who was on the sales team, who worked in the larger room, I guess, with the dog was apparently like really unsanitary. The dog was farting everywhere, I believe. And
Okay.
like, so the smell was bad and there was a bunch of dog fur everywhere. Some of the windows are broken. The bathroom is not clean, but it's mostly sanitary, I guess. But yeah, it's not the best environment.
And whose dog is it? Is it just like one dog that's just in the office all the time? It's like a founder's dog or something.
I do not know. I believe they got the dog after they got accepted into Y Combinator. That's what I know.
Interesting. So it's almost like a company pet or something.
Yeah, I guess so.
Wow. Okay. Interesting. Um yeah, okay. And like so you guys like as a work trial, you mentioned like this was a work trial and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Um so you guys didn't get a mattress. You guys, I guess, weren't like allowed to sleep in the office type of thing. Only like the full-time people got mattresses and did that.
Well, there's like a bunch of matches around the office. I believe there's at least like 6 or 7 in the San Fran office. And not obviously not everyone sleeps there every day, right? I think I believe Josh, the founders, and most of the employees have their own like living with the either company apartment or they privately like just get their own apartment. So we can like the mattresses are kind of like communal, I guess, but it
Oh
has no
wow.
sheets or anything. And the company also rents a townhouse that's in the financial district. It's kind of close to the pier. That's maybe a 20-minute walk to the office. And in the townhouse, there's like just very bare rooms with mattresses on the ground. And there's no
What?
Wi-Fi, no mattresses, or no sheets. Some of the beds had coverings. It's very bare bones.
And the mattresses over there are like communal as well, type of thing.
Yeah, I do not believe they're washed. There were stains on mine.
Oh wow. Okay, and you've slept on these like communal mattresses.
Yeah,
And is there any alternative? Like if you don't want to sleep in the office
no.
communal mattress
It's
For the
either the
townhouse?
office mattresses that are communal or the townhouse mattresses that are communal.
oh, what? And they don't provide like sheets that no one like washes the mat, like no one changes
Some
anything.
of
It's
the
just
beds had sheets. It's the beds in the office did not have sheets. The one of the beds that my friend slept on in the townhouse did not have sheets as well.
uh, wow. And like how did you feel about working in like conditions like that? You know, like a company that just raised that much money that's making that much in ARR. Like as an employee, how did you feel about that?
Yeah, the moment I got into the office, their elevator is definitely not like legally like up to pair. Like the elevator is very sketch. But the moment I walked into the office, I saw like broken windows. The elevator didn't work, so I knew like off the bat the office was not the best. The townhouse, not the most sanitary. Also, someone's girlfriend lives there. I believe one of the full-time employees' girlfriend lives there as well, and
Okay.
she's just there. But I don't know. I was pretty desperate for the opportunity. Obviously, I knew like it wasn't the best, but yeah. Speaking to the other work trial interns, we definitely like knew it was not high quality.
And do you know how often they're doing these like work trials and like who's showing up to them? Are they just people they find on LinkedIn, or do they? Is there any like rhyme or reason to these people that, for example, are doing work trials and the frequency of them?
I believe there are several a week, maybe more. I know that once you're done, they try to send you home as fast as possible so they can get someone else in. And
Mhm.
as for the type of people that they recruit, I believe it's everyone. But for sales specifically, they're targeting Mormons. Or so I've been told. I've been told by someone who was work trialing there that they're targeting Mormons because they believe that Mormons from their like missions have gained like good sales skills, I guess, like something like that. So their sales office is actually in Salt Lake City, so
Oh
they can recruit
wow.
Mormons, like and like
Oof.
Mormons and athletes specifically, from what I've for their sales team. And for
Oh,
the engineers, they just find people on LinkedIn. They don't do any technical interviews really. They kind of just like ask you about your experiences. Nothing really too technical. That at least that was my experience. And then they just fly you out. Yeah,
Wow.
but it's anywhere from high school interns to undergrad interns to I believe there's a law school graduate who got a work trial.
So, okay, a couple of questions there. Like, number one, they've done it with high school students type of thing, and this is like the whole trial thing, like communal mattresses and stuff like that with high school students. And number two, what's the story about law students?
Okay, so first off, high school students is pretty crazy. One of the high school students I know who actually did get a return offer, the compensation was apparently like 20K in cash and 20K in like housing and food credit
For
for a
Like the
whole
summer or
year.
something?
For a
A
full
whole
year.
year.
Yeah, that's what they were offering the high school students.
and these high school students, like, they, I guess, would graduate and then go work full time for $20,000 a year in salary.
Yeah, and then it was a gap year opportunity. That's what I've heard so far.
What? That's insane. I mean, that's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah, it's pretty crazy. And then for the law school grad, I believe it's just someone who reached out to them. I've heard this. I heard they were hiring or they were trialing him from another work trial because we've kind of formed like a victims like group chat, I guess. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But from someone else, I've heard they got someone from it was either U Chicago Law School or like Stanford Law School, one of those, and they were trialing him. I'm not sure. I don't know anything beyond that.
Wow. Okay. Wow. And you mentioned an office in Salt Lake City, I think, right?
Right.
Do you know, like, are those the only two offices? And do you know if they like have the same type of like living conditions in that office, or is it just like in SF for like engineers and stuff?
I don't know. I've never been to the Salt Lake City office, but I believe their main reasons for the Salt Lake City office location was one, the Mormons, and two, like the cheap costs. So I believe they're trying to optimize on how much they spend on employees.
Wow. And while you were there, or anyone else you know, did anyone try to like speak out against like the living conditions, the working conditions, the sort of culture that they have there, and did any of it ever lead anywhere?
I mean, it was basically like very well talked about amongst all the workflow interns there, but none of us really spoke out against it. Like, I know like maybe 4 or 5 people that were work trialing there very well, and three of us got like pretty sick during
Sick.
our work trial.
Like sick as in like physically ill?
Yeah, a lot of us are physically ill, and almost all of us are like not satisfied with the working conditions.
Wow. Like, what kind of, is it like a physical ailment that it would have been very noticeable for like the founders or anyone in the office that this was happening type of thing?
Um, I know someone that got pink eye. I know someone that got sick, like or just like moderately sick, like with cold. But yeah, it ranges.
Wow. And like, did the company do anything? Did they mention, like, did they know about it? Like, do you believe that the founders and the people that are full time there, they understand like how, I guess, the culture is, and they just and how people feel about it, and they just choose not to like take action on it type of thing, or they only
Yeah.
allow people to come back full time that like are okay with this?
I believe the full-time people are all okay with this. Yeah. The full-time engineers that I met there, none of them have super traditional backgrounds, or like they were all maybe ex-founders or people who didn't really take off successfully. And that's one of the reasons why I believe they're okay with this. They see this as like a great opportunity and they're willing to overlook some of this.
Wow. Wow. That's insane that something like this has been going on for so long, and nothing's been done about it. And not only that, like, I mean, the fact that they're posting and stuff like that on LinkedIn, yeah, like that guy John, right, who posts on LinkedIn, like, is he like, does he do they truly, I guess, believe that like this stuff is okay and posting about on LinkedIn is like actually like the flex that they think it is. Like is that really representative of the culture that is there?
I really, really think it is. Like they're very edgy about it. They're very like, oh, like we work harder than everyone else kind of vibe. Yeah. Like
Edgy
they're
about it,
very
right?
serious about it.
Wow. That's insane. I mean, yeah, that red book and stuff like that they give to everyone. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And for like food, for example, you mentioned you guys have like a chance to like take a break during the day and eat. Like I guess you're in the office all day. Do they subsidize lunches or how did that stuff work?
So it varies from people to people. So for me and the people at the time I was work trialing with, we got these ramp cards, which are basically like debit cards. The amount you got depended on how much it costed for your flight. So if you flew in from the East Coast, like my friend did, they gave him like 1,000. But I
Okay.
know people that got around 500, 800. It varies from like 500 to 1,500, I believe. But you could just spend that for your week. And yeah, but some people later on, I believe the people in maybe April and later, the company bought them the plane ticket and the company like didn't give them any RAM cards or anything. Like one of the work trial interns I spoke to, he expected to pay for the food himself.
Oh, and this is for a trial at the company.
Yes.
So let me get this straight. For some people that trialed at the company, they would buy the flight for them, but while they were there, they were expected to either stay in a townhome with communal mattresses or in the office with communal mattresses, and they didn't pay or give them any like stipends for food or anything. It was just the flight that was covered and like the ability to sleep in one of the two places that have communal mattresses.
That was what was offered, but me and the other people who were work trial there before the guy who got his plane ticket bought, we told him about the RAM cards. I don't know if he followed up with the founders about it or anything. So I don't know what ended up happening. But because they bought him a plane ticket instead of letting him buy his own, which is what the rest of us did, like I believe he just bought his own food. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. And this is on top of not getting any for work trial, no like money specifically for your time. It's just like,
No, it's
Oh,
only the stipend. You don't get
wow.
to keep any of the money if you don't spend it.
wow. So this was
It-
like an unpaid, like like an unpaid like trial period where they work you 12 hours a day, make you sleep on like a communal mattress, and then send you home if you're not a fit.
Yeah, basically, but more than 12. The shortest I worked was around 14.
14. How much sleep on average were you getting per day while you were there?
Because of how like subhuman the living standards were, I didn't sleep that much. Neither could the other people because we didn't really know how the AC worked in the house. There wasn't Wi-Fi. It was very bare bones. So like it was kind of hard to sleep, especially for me because I didn't get that many covers and I was just worrying about bed bugs and stuff like that.
Has that like traditionally been an issue in the office, like bed bugs or any other like weird insect thing?
I didn't spend that much in Taha, so I don't know, but I wouldn't be
Okay.
Okay.
surprised.
Right. Yeah, and so you mentioned covers, like so I know the mattresses, some of them had sheets you mentioned, and there was like a limited amount of, I guess, covers to go around and stuff.
Right. Yeah. It went up to my maybe my chest to my knees. Yeah.
Wow.
That's insane. And the furniture, I know they mentioned like they bragged about in a LinkedIn post how they don't buy any new furniture and stuff like that. Like for example, when you were like working in the office, like are there actually engineers just going and like picking up Facebook Marketplace furniture and are like what do you guys work on? Like did they provide laptops or chairs or monitors for you guys to work on and stuff like that, or was all of that secondhand as well?
Um so the furniture, I'm not really sure. They I believe they've gotten multiple things for free in terms of like chairs or desks or even mattresses. I'm not sure on that. I think that happened a little before my time there. And as for monitors and things like that, we were provided desks. I personally got a monitor, but I know someone who didn't get a monitor. I think it all depends on who was in the office that day.
Okay. Okay. And like I guess you use your own laptops then and everything too.
Yeah.
And so the actual engineering work that they had you guys doing, was it mostly like they didn't do any technical screening before they like asked anyone to come in for this work trial? Did they just expect you to like sort of vibe code and like figure shit out, or like what were the standards around their software?
So in the interview, I kind of just talked about projects I've done in the past, and they asked me like what stacks I knew, but they didn't really like test me on anything, you know? Like there was no leak code, there was no really like technical questions, I guess.
Okay.
And at the work trial, they just gave us like objectives to do, like, oh, just code XYZ for us, right? And then I think you were graded based on like how cheap it was to compute your solution for that specific project. And
These are like these projects you're talking about, were they graded on how cheap it was to compute? Like these are things that they're using in production and stuff.
Can you repeat that?
These are like things that they're actually like shipping into production, and these are real like features and stuff that they're having you do.
I believe they're part of features. I don't know if they're being used for finalized products. My friend who's on the sales team, um, he was doing various tasks like search engine optimization, SEO, like articles and whatnot. They definitely used his stuff for that while not bringing him back.
Wow. And you were saying it's like the cost to compute. It's based on like how much dollars in like OpenAI credit you use, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I believe that's one of the ways you were graded. And I they don't really care about if you vibe coded it. Like you can just have cursor open the entire time and you can just you leave it there and like no one cares. And I believe some of the people there vibe code, yeah.
Okay. Okay. And I mean, yeah, this is all like really insightful. Like, so yeah, first of all, thanks for sharing your story. And is there anything crazy that you saw that you want to touch on, or anything you feel like should be added, or anything else you want to talk about that I haven't touched on?
Um I would just say like don't fall for traps like this. It's never worth it to work for unpaid, and like even if you did get a return offer, like it's 40K TC, half of it's in like food and housing credit. I believe they might automatically deduct like housing credit if you choose to live in a townhouse or something. So I feel like for all these opportunities, like don't get baited by the YC title. I personally would not have returned to this company even if I got like a reasonable offer. You should never be working like over 14 hours a day. It's really crazy. And like, it's just not worth it. I'll send you some pictures me and my friends that have work trial there have taken of like the office and the environment, all that. You can use it for the video, but overall, that company, I would not intern at again or work there.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's honestly kind of disgusting to see like, number one, what they made you guys do, and what like the living conditions so bad that you literally got sick after like literally a week of being there.
Oh, I got sick on the first day.
You got sick on the first day.
I got off my flight, went to the office. I worked like 14 hours a day. I went back the second day I woke up. Yeah, it was not good.
Jesus, that's insane. And for example, if somebody is sick, are they still expected to come in to the office even if it's contagious?
You're showing up.
Wow. So and like, I'm guessing if somebody has something that's contagious, it's just gonna make its way around the office in that case.
And they're completely fine if you're like walking by yourself home from the office to the housing at like 12 a.m. in San Francisco. Like they're completely fine with that. Even with the high school interns, I think they're letting do that.
And they wouldn't like cover, for example, an Uber home at that time of night or any other
alternate form of like.
you could use your RAM card on it, but from what I've experienced, like most of us, like I took an Uber to the office and I literally couldn't afford an Uber back, so I took the metro. But I now spending maybe $15 on meals, and I was having 2 meals a day.
Wow. And that's because they only give you a certain amount of money that you
Yeah,
could spend during the work trial and you had to ration it.
yeah. And I imagine for the guy that didn't even get a ramp card, like I imagine he was struggling.
That's
Like
insane. Like he probably lost money doing work for this company.
definitely down money. He's definitely down money. And more
That's
specifically, they didn't have like water in the office. Like you had to get it from the faucet, I think. Like it was not great.
there's not even like water. Like if you wanted to fill up a water bottle or anything, you had to like leave the
I think
office physically.
there might have been tap water. I'm not. I didn't drink it. Yeah, I don't know.
And like like uh I guess one of the questions I have now is like the founders like is there any reasoning that the founders gave you for why they were so like I don't even think frugal does this justice, but so like um opposed to spending money to maintain basic human like rights in the office, while like despite having raised so much money and despite making so much money? Was there any rationale that they gave to everyone, or is it just like this is how we work and this is, I don't know, some hustle culture thing?
I mean, I don't know because I believe like it's because their work trial volume is so high. Because like for me, I believe the technical interview, or I guess if you can even call it a technical interview, it was not that hard. It was really not that hard to get like offered a work trial. I believe their volume for work trials is crazy. So I believe that's why they're so frugal with it.
What do you think the volume would look like over the course of a month or a year?
Over the course of their of the month I was there, like maybe January through March, I would say maybe if you're counting like three, this was just for the San Francisco location. I do not know what's going on in Salt Lake City. I believe they're even getting more work trial interns in the Salt Lake City.
For
But
sales?
yeah, I don't like they're getting ex-athletes, Mormons, anyone basically for that. But just for the San Francisco office, which is the smaller office, I believe, maybe they're averaging three a week. So if you go from every month, they're in 3 months, they've probably done anywhere from like 20 to 30.
And these are just all people that are coming in, sleeping on these communal beds, leaving. The sheets aren't getting washed. Nothing's happening. It's just people that they're flying in and out and not paying, just some of the times giving them stipends to barely survive while they're there.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So this company, I believe one of my venture capital friends is trying to do something about it, but yeah, it's very stark. And I believe they're purposely exploiting multiple groups that would be desperate for it, like students from non-targets, or high school students, or Mormons. Like they're just targeting anyone they believe would be desperate enough to work under these conditions under the low TC.
Right. Right. And like in terms of like investors, do you think their investors like know about this and they're okay with it, or is it something that it's sort of like swept under the rug and they're not like aware of it? Like in terms of like all of their investors, I know they're backed by like a couple big names.
Yeah, they're backed by Silicon Valley Angels, SBA. They're backed by Y Combinator, like some of the biggest venture capitals. I do not believe those VCs know about this, because like these are like legit, like these would violate laws in other countries like Europe or whatever.
Right. Yeah, I would be very surprised if they did and they allowed this to happen. So I mean, I think your story is probably going to help a lot of people that are like, first of all, I hope it sets the precedence for like future startups that and the founders that idolize this type of behavior and these types of posts on LinkedIn and stuff like that. I hope this type of story, your story, sets a precedence so that this doesn't become a more commonplace thing in the future. And I also hope that it helps a lot of the people that are currently at that company and all the people that would go on to work trial at that company if nothing was said. So, I think what you're doing is like very, very like commendable. Hopefully it helps a lot of people.
Yeah, thank you for helping it out.
Yeah. Is there anything else you'd like to say while we're still on record? Like anything else you'd like to add before I cut the interview just for the video or anything else?
Nah, I think that's it.
All right. Well, thank you.